Mr. Good, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses for being here. And I have been in your stadium, Dr. Rennick. And so my first question is unrelated to that visit, but for you. In your testimony, you mentioned that Georgia State made use of small dollar grants funded by alumni and private donors. How could this model be used more broadly by schools to reduce costs for students?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we just finished a longitudinal study of over 70,000 students. We looked at them from 2013 to 2021, and one result was particularly sobering. If a student stops out of college for even a single semester for financial reasons, their chances of graduating go down by about 50 percentage points. The difference between graduating at 75% rate to 25% rate. So this Panther Retention Grant Program, which we initiated a decade ago, is designed to use data to identify, oftentimes before the student, him or herself, realizes they're going to be on a pathway to dropping out for financial reasons, provide them the counseling and then small microgrants. The microgrants only average $900 each, but we've given over 19,000 of these grants out, and every year now about 1,300 of the students who walk across the stage at that stadium that you've had the chance of visiting are recipients of the microgrants. What it indicates is we need to be a lot more flexible and data-oriented in the way we award aid. That if we were trying to support every Georgia State student for 4 years fully with institutional aid, we'd be overwhelmed. But by looking at students who are close to graduating, looking at the data to see where the small grant will make the big difference, we've been able to get over 80% of the recipients of these microgrants to graduate from Georgia State.
That's incredible results there. So you mentioned the 70,000 number. When you analyze 70,000 students, you mean over the decade at Georgia State?
That's right. These are 70,000 students across 8 years of enrollment at Georgia State.
Approximately what percentage or number of students do you think, or would you say, have been totally impacted by this? I guess you gave a number, but what percentage of the total is that's been able to be helped by these Panther grants?
Yeah, and this was part of the longitudinal study of those 70,000 students. If a student received the grant, then they graduated from Georgia State at about a 75% clip. So we're talking about, over the course of the life of this program, well over 10,000 students that have graduated who otherwise would have been stopped out and unlikely to return to complete their degrees.
So would it be 1 out of approximately 7 then? 10,000 out of the 70,000 that you looked at? Would that be
80% of the students who get the grants are graduating on times, and we've given out 19,000 of these grants total.
Why do you think more colleges aren't using this approach? Do they not know about it? Is there resistance? What do you think the reason would be we don't see and hear about this at other schools more commonly?
I think there are a couple challenges. One is that we do need to do a better job of sharing best practices. That's one of the reasons that we founded this National Institute for Student Success, where we work with campuses to implement these changes. But it does require good data. It requires you to be able to understand which students are at financial risk, which students are at risk of falling out of compliance with SAP, which ones are running out of eligibility for state or federal grants and so forth, and to be on top of it, because once the student leaves our institution, the inertia is very hard to reverse. It's hard to bring the student back once they stop out.
That was my experience as a student a long time ago. If they left for a period of time, they rarely returned. Dr. Carroll, just to pivot to you for a moment, you talked about college in 3 programs. Can you just talk about the impact that this has on costs and college debt for students, how this helps them?
Absolutely. So the savings for students are up to 1 full year. If they're residential students, that includes not only tuition and fees, but also any costs for their residents. In addition, most of these programs have embedded paid internships, and because the degree time is shorter, they begin their lifetime earnings as a professional sooner as well. So the overall financial benefit is quite significant.
You know, you could argue that our cultural model for college to begin with, go to college to experience college, to figure out what you might want to do, is really upside down, if you will. Why would other institutions or some institutions be opposed to this model, the College in 3 program, do you think?
There are institutions and many of us within higher education who want to ensure that any such program is focused on learning, transformative learning, and is using evidence-based practice. So the idea of simply lopping off some credits is not what College in 3 is about. We're working to use evidence-based design that's focused on student learning and development to make not only a shorter program, but a better program. And that's a reason that some might be fearful of attempting a 3-year degree.
My time's up, but in my experience, the more immersed and saturated and more intense the program, the more you retain, the more that it benefits you, actually. It's the exact opposite of stretching it out, the result when you stretch it out. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Good. And I want to take a short point of personal privilege here.